Hi, everybody. It's Sunny or Dr. Goggin, and I am so excited to be able to bring you an amazing presentation today. I'm going to be interviewing Cynthia Croissant, who is a certified personal trainer, and she helps people live their best physical lives. Get out there, get back into life with vibrant health and being able to move their body in ways that we could when we were younger, right? I mean, isn't that what we'd all like to do? Like, this is my year for basketball. That's why I bought myself a basketball for my Christmas present. So I got a basketball. And so
Wow.
this is my year. I'm going to start an over 50 league. That's my dream. But Cynthia helps people move into their best shape ever and be able to fully access those ranges of motion. And she's going to teach us more about things that you don't know about how your body works and how you can make it work better. So Cynthia, welcome. I'm so thrilled to have you here. How are you doing?
Hi, I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me join. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, we're excited. Well, so tell us, I love to ask people's origin stories. And guys, if you hang on till the end, because we're going to be giving you a super neat perk. So hang on till the end. But I'd love to start off with how people got into what they're doing. And can you tell us a little bit about, what your passion is and what brought you to your passion?
Yeah, sure. My degree is actually in geography. So
Oh,
I had quite the journey to get where I'm at. But basically, when I was in my 20s, my mother got very, very sick. She had cancer, and I saw some choices, some health choices and wellness choices that she had been making. And I realized that I wanted to make different choices. And part of her issue, some things that came up for her work was bone density. So I broke a toe and then I broke a second toe. By the time I broke a third toe, they're like, let's get you scanned. Something might be going on with your bones. And they did find that I have pretty thin bones, osteopenia at that time. And I was like, I'm too young to have these old lady problems. And so I realized that I needed to make changes, especially if I have kind of a genetic predisposition towards certain things. And I wanted to do everything I could to make sure that I was living as active and as full out and as healthy as I possibly could for as long as I could. Like at the time, I was doing okay, but
right.
I could see like what happened to my mom, and I knew that the sooner I made these changes, the the easier that would be, the more of a difference it would make in my future self. So
Right.
I decided I was going to lift heavy because that's good for bone density.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hired the bodybuilder coach that was at my local gym, and he's like, and I was a dancer. I was a dancer growing up. So I leaned into my hypermobility that served me really well. I did yoga because, I'm hypermobile. I'm really good at it. And we all like to do things we're really good at. It felt great. But the strength part, that's always been a little bit of an issue for me. And so that's partly why I never really did it. And the guy looked at me, he's like, you look like you work out. Yeah, I work out. I do Zumba. He's like, let's do deadlifts. And he got the barbell out. And I'm like, sure, I'll do deadlifts. And so I had no idea what I was doing, how to brace like fully activate my core,
Right.
do some bracing, all of that. Like, how do you breathe when you do that? It's different than when you're doing yoga for relaxation, for example. There's a difference in working out for adding stress and making structural changes in your body versus working out to undo all that stress. And so
Right.
I
Yeah.
I got injured. I
Mm.
was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and it didn't work because a lot of the traditional approaches towards strength training and building muscle and working out, it just doesn't work for kind of midlife
Mhm.
women or hypermobile people who
Right.
don't fit the traditional 20-year-old man model. But I
Right.
was like, there's got to be a way that I can do this because I'm a scientist geek at heart. I love doing research and like figuring things out like a good
Sure.
puzzle, So I was like, so I did a bunch of research and I tried a bunch of stuff and I found kettlebells. And that was something that it was like bite-sized weightlifting. And it had an element of flexibility and cardio in there that felt familiar for me. And I just happened to live near a coach who was kind of high up in this, in this body that does a bunch of kettlebell things, especially for strength purposes.
Nice.
So I fell into this world and I really liked it. So I went all in and I got certified in that in this brushing kettlebell system. Well, I went to the certification, I did not pass. And I was like,
Oh,
it was a
well, don't
learning
you have to like
experience.
throw the
Yeah,
kettlebells and
yeah,
catch?
you have to do 100 snatches in 5 minutes with a pretty heavy kettlebell.
Oh my
And
God.
it was a big reach for me and it was really difficult, but I went back. I had 3 months to clean it all up and submit a video, which I did, but I had to figure out things like, because I tend to be a little bit on the anxious side. And I know, people of a certain age, you got a lot of responsibilities, you got the kids, and it all kind of adds up. And so
Mhm.
what I found was I'm having a little bit of mobility issues, even though I'm hypermobile through my hips and through my low back, the body is seeking stability. So like all up in my neck is super tight. And I couldn't really, I couldn't get the kettlebell over my head. And in order to do that, I'm like opening up my ribs and that's causing my low back to get too much strain on it. So I was getting
It's all
injured.
connected.
Yeah. And I wasn't strong in my core to be able to do all the other things. And so I figured out that I needed to work on some mobility and some stability, honestly, and that people don't see. I mean, flexibility is different than mobility because you have to have an element of stability in order for the joints to really work right.
All
So
these abilities, right?
that I figured
Ability,
out. Yeah,
flexibility.
so I just kind of fell into this rabbit hole, but it was coming from more of a health focus. And so I did pass my certification. And then the guy who I was
That's
working with,
huge. I mean,
yeah,
that's incredible. I know that I
it's
mean,
tough.
that's tough. Yeah. So you passed.
Yeah. And the guy who was training me, he's like, I have other people who have these issues because it's tough to pass it and they need, you need some extra, you have to train up for it. And so he was working with some people who were training up for it and they had the mobility issues. And so they're like, well, can you teach them what you learned for yourself? And I was
Nice.
like, sure I can. And so kind of fell into this niche of helping people to undo the stress that they get on them, especially in regards to mobility and stability, core activation, and glute activation that you need if you want to do something else, like you want to pass your kettlebell certification, or you want to, start playing basketball at a high level, or you want to be able to run without, getting all the tight um, plantar fasciitis or whatever it is. So
Good to
that kind of
see.
became my go-to thing. I'm the person that can help set you up for success, so that you can do the other thing that you really want to do.
Well, I mean, this is something that is vastly needed for anybody, right? And something
Yeah.
that's not talked about. I mean, you'll go to a class and they'll do stretching and things like that, and they'll talk about, oh, engage your core. But
Mhm.
if we want to run that octogenarian decathlon, right, that Peter Attia talks about, like what are those things you guys want to do when you're 80? And I love this idea. It's like if you want to be able to still jog a mile or still swim or pick up your kids, throw the kids around in a good way. If you want to do those things, we really need to train now. The cat's here, and
Oh, just kidding.
and she's my assistant. And this is essential because as we get older, everything gels, y'all. All of
Mhm.
your body has to, when you move, the planes, everything has to slide. And I think
Yep.
that's part of what Cynthia is talking about is making sure things continue to slide. And if they're stuck from stress, how do we start to unstick those? So this is groundbreaking. I don't hear people talking about this. So Cynthia, way to
Oh,
go, bringing what the world needs. So you found your way. I mean, Cynthia obviously is very strong for her to be able to pass that test. That's incredible. And I'm going to have to hire you as my personal trainer now. But tell us a little bit more about what are the important factors that people need to think about when they're moving into exercise, and just speak to that a little bit if you don't mind.
yeah, I know in January particularly, everybody's like, I'm gonna exercise every day, starting now, kind of things. And that's great. And I do think that we need to have a goal. Like you need to know the destination that you're trying to get to It could be weight loss. It could be increased mobility. It could be consistency, or could be that you have a lifting goal or a performance goal. I want to do a pull up, or whatever your goal is. It's great to have that because, or play basketball. Sure. Yeah, because otherwise, and I've seen that because I worked at a bunch of gyms, and in January, I would stand there waiting for my clients, and see people kind of come in and they'd look around and just kind of wander. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what all is where. And then they go and they pick up some dumbbells and they're like, okay, I guess I'll do some curls. And they're looking, and then they're like, I don't really know what else to do. So I'm just going to go walk on the treadmill. And it happens like you make the time that you're going to work out and you're like, yeah, and you get there and you don't really know what to do. And then you end up wasting a bunch of time. And then you're like, well, I'm not really getting anywhere anyway.
Right.
But it's because you're not planning. So I would say definitely need a plan. Like you need a goal, whatever that is, and you need the plan. Like I'm currently here. You kind of figure out where you're at, and I want to be
Mhm.
there. So the plan to get from here to there, like the map, that's important. And when you're standing in the middle of the gym and it's super crowded, that's not the time to figure it out because, it's hard that when you're just dumped in there. So, have the overall plan and then have a plan of when I go tomorrow, I'm gonna do some rows. I'm gonna work on this machine, and then I'm gonna go do that machine. I'm gonna do 3 sets of 10. You have your particular workout, as well as I'm gonna work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The overall plan and the particular plan that really helps. And also, you have the plan for I'm going to put stress on my body, but then the thing that I've added to this fitness equation is also plan on how am I going to undo all that stress? Like putting lifting heavy weights is a stress, or doing a lot of cardio where you feel out of breath and that kind of thing. That's also a stress.
Mhm.
So yeah, how are you going to undo it? Because a lot of times people see recovery as that's the day I sit on the couch and I don't do too much. And that's their recovery. And there's a place for, just kind of resting, sure, but you're missing an opportunity to do other stuff. Like I call it structured recovery, where you actually go and you do some exercises or drills, whatever you want to call it,
Ah,
movements, where you can increase your mobility, you can actually undo some of the or that you get. And so there are things you can physically do to help yourself out.
that is very interesting. As I try, like when I was a kid, I was hypermobile too. And so I could do a split easily without any, and I cannot anymore. And I'm like, or at least at this moment, I
I
can.
get you.
I mean, I know that I could, and I would like to get the mobility back. Um, so, are you suggesting for somebody like that who wants to, I want to get strong, and I
Mhm.
want to get more flexible, that it would be possible for me? I've seen some unique stretches that sort of help you stretch. You stretch while you're doing like a muscle contraction sort of thing, or I've
Mhm.
seen, yeah. So
Yeah.
is it possible, do you think, that maybe I could do a split again?
Yeah, sure. Something to watch out for because I've been hypermobile. I was a dancer and I did martial arts and stuff. So my hamstrings got super duper stretched out, and I always thought that's amazing. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You can touch your toes." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm lucky." But what I found, and I've gone to a couple different specialists because I've tried to, go again, trying
Yeah.
to find the answers. So I sought out a bunch of different modalities that can help or specialists that can help. So I ended up talking to somebody who is a high ranking practitioner in Pasteur Restoration Institute. They're trained by that. Um,
That's
they
great.
have their own business now, but I went and I had them evaluate me. And what they said was that if your hamstrings are super duper duper flexible, that's not really an awesome thing because then you lack stability.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost like at a certain age, that's really hard to get that the tissue is so stretched out, it like doesn't go back to being so it's like
Ah.
pantyhose that you've stretched and you stretched and you stretch and or support hose and
Yeah.
you stretch them and then eventually they're so stretched out they're not support hose anymore. And that can happen to some of these softer tissues,
Uh-huh.
particularly,
Uh-huh.
they just get too stretched out that now they can't really support very well. And they told me that that's kind of where I'm at. So they told me not to really lean into the end ranges of flexibility because that that's not what I need. Like I'm good at it, so I'd love to hang out there, but what I need to do is the hard stuff, the activating. Those hamstrings love to stretch for me,
Yeah.
but they do not love to activate. So trying to get them to actually turn on and really do their job, I've had to go back and do really regressed exercises or movements and really tune in because I can make the shape of the movement, like my body moves such that it seems like I'm doing the right exercise. But what I found is a lot of times I've been like using my low back or even my glutes. Like I figured out how to activate them, but getting those hamstrings to really go on because they're so stretched out, it's been really hard. Um, so
That's an
it's
epiphany for
again
you to
just
talk. Yeah, for you to talk about it. I
yeah.
recognize now in my, 58-year-old body that there are parts of me that it's very hard for me to activate.
Mm, yeah.
When I'm
Gotcha.
stepping back into going to be the strongest year of my life. And I was that person that you talked about. Because I have previously lifted weights, done circuit training, that sort of thing, but it's been a long time. Now I've been in my bedroom doing, you doing my exercise motor. So I went to
Yeah.
the YMCA and I walked in. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I asked a woman, I said, hey, what I think she's going to tell me. She's like, I don't know. I just come in and do some, there's no
Yeah,
circuit.
nope, everybody's in the same boat
And
typically, or else they have their headphones on
right,
and they're
I
like,
was,
you don't want to mess with them.
I know, I was totally that person who went in and I looked around and like, damn, what do I do? But I sat down and tried a few things. But what I noticed is that it was hard for me, like let's say I'm trying to do the bicep curl to get the bicep to really activate, or the
Yeah.
hamstrings, particularly. I've never been a super strong person, but I'm fascinated by this. And this is important, you guys, when you are beginning to work the muscles we really actually need to send psychic energy, that is brain
Mhm.
focus energy to the area that we're working. That's something that someone before has told me. And I could tell that it's necessary for me to really think about the bicep or think about my when I'm doing curls, the hamstrings. So the other thing that I know you're a specialist in is integrating breath with
Right.
the movements and the power there. Can you talk a little bit about how movement and exercise can help with you being able to actually get a good breath in and yeah.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people want to work their abs, like I hear a lot. And a lot of times they're like, oh, the low belly pooch. I just can't get rid of the low belly pooch. And I think a lot of that, the breath is foundational for a lot of things, posture wise, and also with the breath, because they kind of go together posture and how things, your joints are situated, and also breathing. Like if you can go to a, let's say a physical therapist or a specialist and they can help or there are those stretch labs that can help you to stretch and you loosen things up, but then it comes right back. Have you ever done that?
Mhm.
Like you go get a massage and things feel looser, and then after a day or two, it's like right back there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that has to do with how you're breathing. So that's the thing I found is like if you distill things down, and you come back to people aren't breathing in the most efficient way possible, and because of that, they have to recruit other muscles that
Mhm.
shouldn't really be the primary workers in the breathing process. And then those other muscles, the secondary muscles, they get really stressed out and they get really tight. And the other muscles that are supposed to be working, they just don't know how to work anymore. They're just it's hard to get them to go. And that results in things like hunching and head forward posture because you're trying to find some space. So your belly starts to go out instead of in and up. And when your belly is kind of going out, and if you watch when you do crunches, you can see your belly kind of pooching out, out as you come up. It goes out as you come up. That's really common. And that's called doming or coning, especially women who have had babies, because all of that is kind of weak and separated. And it's hard to get all that back in place
Yeah,
and working
sometimes
really well in the first
it's a
place.
physiological thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, so it's foundational. And
Mhm.
if you're breathing, and you can check, like, because I know I tend to be a shallow breather myself, and I've gone. I was like, again, I'm like, something's up. I can't get my abs working. I can't get, my back is super tight. I went to a pelvic floor specialist who did, internal pelvic floor therapy. And she's like, you're not breathing right. And I can tell
Uh-huh.
because when you breathe in, this is your diaphragm and this is your pelvic floor. When you breathe in, your pelvic floor should expand downwards slightly. As you exhale, everything just drifts back up. Inhale, pelvic floor, everything goes down. Exhale, it just drifts back up. And she's like, I don't feel your pelvic floor expanding downward when you inhale.
Mm.
And I was like, sure it does. I'm just like, no, I don't. And then when you tune in and you're really paying attention, it's really hard to get that to happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but if that's not happening, then it should be like a cylinder between all the diaphragms of your body, including your pelvic floor and the main diaphragm. But what
Hmm.
happens a lot of times is
That's your abdomen right there.
yeah, this is
That's a
your abdomen.
cylinder.
Pelvic
Yeah.
floor, or pelvic floor is the bottom one, diaphragm is
Hmm.
the top one. What happens a lot is people will kind of sag the pelvis kind of sags, and then the ribs go up, trying to kind of compensate, because otherwise you're going to fall forward. So to keep you from falling forward, your upper body's going to lift up and your ribs go up. So you end up with this kind of open scissored type of thing going on, and it puts a stretch on the front of your body.
Instead of going like this, everything moving down together, it goes like open.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So it's opening, and that puts a stretch on the front abs. And when they're stretched out like that, it makes it hard for them to really work. So, so
Gosh.
you're asking it to stretch at the same time as work. And it's like, I can't do that. So I'm not gonna do that. So if you can fix this kind of open scissors posture by kind of, how you would fix that is partly to tuck your pelvis under. And how you
Hmm.
do that is get your hamstrings to go. And as we talked about, if you're hypermobile, those hamstrings don't want to go.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of this loop, like the hamstrings are kind of stretched out, so they don't want to work. And so they let your pelvis tip. And because your pelvis tips, then your front abs don't really work, and they want to bulge out and pooch out. And so, it's this whole kind of loop that can happen. But so they're kind of interconnected. If you can kind of tuck under, get your hamstrings going, that'll
Mhm.
kind of put everything in a better position. And then you'll be able to do the breathing, where you take a big breath in, you feel your diaphragm go down, you feel your pelvic. If you really pay attention, you might feel a slight pressure on your pelvic floor, men and women. It's not just a women thing. And
Mhm.
then as you exhale, it should just drift back up. If you feel like, instead of the pelvic floor going kind of out and in a little bit, you feel like your shoulders are doing the up and down thing, that's partly what causes all this tightness here. And that was partly what people had found doing all the kettlebell stuff. It's a whole lot of overhead stuff. If this is all tight, 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 it's not gonna let you relax and get that arm to go straight up,
I
and
see.
things like that. So it's all kind of related.
Yeah, well, the other thing that I mean, everybody recognizes now is that we are having problems because of our technology. We're all looking down
It's
at screens, and posture is such a big part of it. And where you're talking about is getting into neutral posture. The other thing that with I notice this with women a lot, is that our our stabilizing muscles of the upper back are not engaged. And so this
Oh
guy's got
yeah.
to pull down your scapula so that you aren't there,
Mm.
right? And then I have this idea that the part of our forward posture is not just the technology, but it is that we are running, we're walking fast. We're always walking like this, right?
This
I
is
mean,
true.
if you spend all your time like this, and so when I realize that when I stop thinking about my posture, I am forward. I'm like, I just have to slow down and get my hips under me. And that's what really, this is a tip for all of you guys, is when you're passing a mirror, look and see where your head is relative to your shoulders, right? Are you walking really fast in a hurry? Or are you looking down? And then we want to try and align, because alignment so much of it. And then if you can learn Cynthia's breathing technique, this is going to be a way that you're going to be able to optimize your strength, your resilience, and build up more muscle safely, because that's what the whole goal here is, right? Resilience. We want to build up reserves. Just like that's why we do brain games. Brain games now will keep your brain later, as well as all of your healthy living. But building up muscle safely now makes it so you're more likely to run that decathlon of some sort, or go play granny basketball. So the over 50 basketball league, actually, there's no running. Okay. There's no
Oh, wow.
running. I know. Well, so it's safe. The idea is that it's and it's a syndicated thing. They just don't have it where I live. So you can only take 2 dribbles. Nobody can run. You can only there's not anybody shooting 3-pointers unless they're granny. You can do grannies and get
Oh,
extra points for that. So people can only shoot from the just right under the basket. And there's only walking. If somebody falls, you say granny down.
oh,
And
wow.
well, and if you're playing with the granny basketball league, they actually have to wear bloomers. So you have to have, and so you have to be covered from wrist to ankle, because that's the way they did in the 1920s. That's how you had to be fully covered. And then if somebody shows some skin, you get a flesh foul. The other team gets the ball. But it's really meant to encourage games that we used to play that still could be super fun, team games, because as we get older, we need more and more community. Unfortunately, what happens is there's less and less community. Our kids are graduating and leaving us, and you have to find a place to have fun. So I'm sorry, I digress about granny basket.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, and there is a social component to working out that is
Yeah,
great that people can actually take advantage of as well.
yeah. Well, so I wanted to ask you also, because I know that you've mentioned a couple times about anxiety and breath. What's that connection there? And for those of you who have anxiety, the breath is a place that you can start to help control that. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts around breath and anxiety.
Right. So there is a connection between posture and how your body is interpreting the situation that you're in. If your body is in fight or flight, you're going to try to protect your vital organs. That means you're going to be a little bit more crunched up. And when you do that, then you get this head forward posture thing going on, and your breathing's going to increase, and all your energy, blood flow, all that is going to kind of go towards your extremities so that you can do that running away from the saber-toothed tiger. And in the blood, it kind of shuts down the rest and digest. So it impacts your digestion. And so there is a connection, and it also increases your breathing. It makes it a little less efficient because you're breathing more frequently, a little faster, and that's just kind of the biology of how that all works. So if you are anxious, it's going to impact your posture, and it's going to impact how you're breathing. And sometimes we have just so much on our plates, and overscheduled, and money stresses, and kids are not getting into the right college, or whatever stress we have. It's just life, and I get that. So you're coming in to your workout, and you're already kind of in that, right? And it's so funny because I usually start um the workout or the mobility classes that I do with breathing. And a lot of times when people first are in the class, I'm like, we're going to do some deep breathing. We're just going to lie down, going to breathe silently through your nose for 5 counts. And then you're going to exhale, sighing the air out for 6 counts. And almost everybody is like, it's like, no, no, no. They can't breathe. They can't
Not a
take these.
skill that we're taught. They should teach it
Right.
to
And
kids.
they've lost the ability to do it. And they have to practice being able
Right.
to take these deep breaths, because it's just not, they're just in the habit of it. And they're just so anxious in daily life. And it kind of again, it kind of feeds back. Like if you're in this posture, then your body is recognizing something's wrong. Something's wrong. I gotta keep helping run from the tiger. And because you're in that posture, then it's hard to flip into the rest and digest, where you can breathe easier, you can digest it, kind of feel that feeling kind of lifts. So there is definitely this connection between how you're breathing, your posture, and anxiety. And if you improve, the great thing is we do have an access point to all that because we can control breathing. Can be automatic, but you can also control it. So that gives you a little bit of an access point to kind of jump out of the system, jump out of that loop. So breathing is a great way to kind of impact that whole feedback loop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the breath is much more important than the attention that we give it. And you've mentioned breathing through your nose, which, y'all, if you haven't read the book Breath by James Nestor, it is a breakthrough book, and it will make you always want to breathe through your nose. And there are ways that if you cannot breathe through your nose right now, that you can increase your ability to breathe through your nose. And one way that you can do is by slightly closing your nostrils, slightly, so I can still get air in here, and then take a nice, slow, deep breath in, just so you're able to pass the air through it, and practicing in that way. So it's also a good exercise for your diaphragm because you're inhaling against resistance. And now we know that inhale against resistance is very useful for longevity. And so now people train like singers. They have not just the happiness advantage, right? Singers are the happiest group. I have a theory it's because of the breath. I mean, there's so much breath involved. But also teaching someone to do singer's breathing exercises, which is kind of the things that Cynthia's talking about, has been shown to improve COPD and other lung issues. I mean, there's so many good things about it. And breathing through your nose activates the parasympathetic, which is also, so we get away from running from the saber-toothed tiger. So this is all just gold, Cynthia. It's amazing. Well, and so do you have so we all want to feel grounded. And I'm curious, like, what are your tips for like really feeling grounded, so that we can walk through our lives and things come up. We just like in meditation, you let the thought come up and the thought go. How do we stay grounded through the day?
No, there is a connection between feeling grounded, like emotionally, and also, again, with the anxiety and feeling grounded physically. And there's a way to feel grounded physically. And when I went to see that PRI expert, he had me lie down on my side and put my feet up on the wall with my legs bent. So both feet up on the wall. And he was like, okay, keep your heels down and keep your foot on the wall, the top foot. And he's like, I'm going to just try to move it. You just resist, you push down. And for my left foot, he could push on it. It would stick to the wall when I was lying on my right side. But when I was lying on my left side with my right foot up, that foot was just barely on there. Like he could just hit it away. He's like, no, really try. Keep your foot on the wall. And I'm like, I'm not trying, right? What's the deal with this? And I just couldn't do it. And he's like, that's because you're not grounding on your right side. You can kind of ground on your left side. Like I was having a really hard time literally putting my right heel down, especially the inside part of my right heel. And that has to do with, like you said, the head forward. It's like you're falling forward. When you do that, you don't have weight on your heels. And so there's this, and so that was something that I have been researching. That's something that came up recently for me, and I've been really working on it. And it's made a huge impact on my posture when I think, do I have weight in my heels? Or is it all just kind of in my toes? And that has to do,
Yes.
if you have weight in your toes, you're going to push your knees forward. And then you get into the flat back and all this back in between your shoulder blades gets really tight, the sway back posture and stuff like that. And it has to do with that everything is falling forward. And especially if you're a little hypermobile, your body's not grounded. Your body's seeking, like, I feel like I can fall over. Everything is unstable, and it kind of makes you nervous. It can lead to anxiety. It can make you
I'm going
grind
to
your
fall.
teeth.
I mean, you're worried
Yeah,
literally
your body's
about
thinking,
falling.
I am gonna fall. I'm like on quicksand. I need to hold on somehow. And you, I didn't know because I've had teeth problems. Like my jaw just can't stop clenching.
Oh,
And the posture expert was like, and he did a test to see, he like put gloves on and was feeling around in my bite. And he actually works out of a dentist office.
oh,
So this
interesting.
connection between being grounded and teeth issues and jaw clenching and stuff, I was like, that's a whole new world. Um, but I was like, can't I not stop clenching my teeth? And all down through my neck is so super tight. TMJ issues, my teeth literally breaking because there's too much pressure there. And I was trying to figure out like, what is the deal? So the posture experts, like your body is seeking grounding and it just can't find that.
Mhm.
And it's amazing that I've been really working on getting my health down, getting my weight back. And I do feel like things have opened up in my jaw, in my upper
Yeah.
neck. And so that's something else that a lot of people don't realize. This impact, like physically getting your hands down, can have such a huge role
Yeah.
in your daily life and things like your teeth breaking.
Yeah, it's funny how the body is so connected. I mean, with each of the teeth correlating with acupuncture meridians. And so
Mm.
when people have big problems in one tooth, it's interesting to look and see what kind of issues they have. Many times it will actually correlate with that acupuncture meridian of the tooth that has the issue. The other thing I want to mention is that this occurred with me, is I noticed my posture started to change when I was walking because I had pain in my feet and ankles. And I trained myself to believe with each step it was going to hurt. And well, because it did. And what I learned from that experience is that when I started to process it, I realized it doesn't really hurt. I'm just expecting it to hurt. And it's
Mm.
changing my posture. And we can change the amount of our brains that are attributed to a certain pain. So even if you have had pain in an area for a very long time, it's another plug for the Curable app. Man, they should give me some money or something. No, but Curable app is great to help with improving pain because it helps you reduce the real estate in your brain that you give to pain so that something that's plagued you a long time that's affecting your mobility is it can be resolved. It can get better. And we don't have much longer, so there's something else I want to mention that we haven't talked about. And this is microcurrent for breaking down scar tissue and moving fascia planes. And this is something that, Cynthia, I don't know whether or not you've heard about it in your practice, but frequency specific microcurrent, which is FSM, which is what I use, and probably other microcurrent. Frequency specific microcurrent is nice because we can say, break down scar tissue in the fascia. It's a two frequency system. And this is something that now I don't know a lot of people that are using it this way, but a person could conceivably, who has a lot of, because we build up scar tissue, could put it on an area and do range of motion and really start to release adhesions, which is not something that we've really been able to do. I mean, right now we're talking about just manually, like with massage and movement, breaking up, but you can use current that can actually break down adhesions, and it could be a tool. I can tell you more about that a little bit later when we're talking. But if you guys are interested and you have like something with a limited joint range of motion and just gentle maneuvers and massage, and the things you're doing aren't making the biggest difference, frequency specific microcurrent might be something that can help. So we're down to our last few minutes. Tell us. I know that you are being so kind to offer people something. Tell us a little bit about that class.
Yeah, so have found that a lot of people are interested in this and like, how do you use motion to help change into more of the parasympathetic state? Or I need to practice my breathing, but I'm not sure how, or I'm not sure exactly how to program all this. I know I need to do it, So I have a class and it's a follow along class. It's a live class. So you can join. You can ask questions. It's on Zoom. So if you're like, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right, I can see you and give you some feedback. Or some people just like to show up and go off camera and just follow along, just like it's a live class, but it just makes them put it on their calendar and say they're going to show up. So somebody's waiting on them. So they actually do show up and it actually does get done. I call it my body reset class. And it's 45 minutes of just making your body feel good. And that's all that is. And maybe it works a little. Again, we're going to activate those hamstrings and that and stuff like that. But it's a lot of breathing. It's a lot of just moving and gentle, just can you move in a circle? Okay, great, kind of things. And it makes people just when they stop, they're like, ah, I just feel like I can move. Like like if you had an ace bandage wrapped around your ankle and you take it off, it's like that kind of feeling. And I want to offer that to anybody who's listening. Not usually I offer a free class just to try it out, see what it's like. But I want to offer your audience a whole month, the month in January. Show up on Thursdays for free.
What
Get
time is
into
that?
the habit of it, learn the techniques. If you want to continue, great. It's a pretty nominal cost. It's more about just getting it done. But show up for several classes and really get in the good habit. And I want to offer that for free. There's a link that you can use to check it out and to schedule. And you can always reach out to me if you have other questions, particularly like if you have something going on, a personal situation, and you don't want to just have it publicly out there. Feel free. You can contact me and we can set up a time to chat.
Yeah. What's the name of your website again?
My business is called Fitness Simply Done because it's simple. We just get it done. And it's www.fitnesssimplydone.com.
Beautiful. Oh, well, I'm hugely appreciative of your time and your expertise. And I love it that you have started to address this with people because it is so many times. So that you guys, you don't have to just go to the gym, not know where to start. This is the best place to start. And I know Cynthia also probably, I'm imagining you help people to create a plan with their fitness going forward because Cynthia has a lot of different certifications and has had a lot of experience both personally and with helping people get super fit. So just thank you so much. And you guys, please subscribe to the channel if you're interested in hearing more interesting interviews like this. You can reach out to me, clinic@feelgoodfunctionalmed.com, and also my isometrics. There's an isometric workout that is below this that you guys can check out. So I hope to see you, and Cynthia hopes to see you on her channel. And you guys
Yep.
have an awesome, awesome weekend. We're still saying Happy New Year. And you take care of you. Let's look to the future and how can this year be your best ever? All right, guys.